Okay, what I want us to do now is talk about how to solve rate problems. We're going to solve rate problems using something called an arrow diagram. And so here is our problem. We're going to talk about a printer, and we're going to say this: it takes 3 minutes to print a 120-page document. Okay, and let's talk about rates real quick. I want to remind us that a rate is when we compare two different units of measurement when we do quantities. And so we've done ratios a lot, and in ratios we were using the same unit. And so we said, like, if we could compare cups to cups or something like that, we didn't have to write the units. In rates, the most important thing is to understand that we have two different units, and we always have to write the units. The units are so super important with rates. And so in this case, it takes 3 minutes to print a 120-page document. We see our two different units. We see that we are measuring the time in minutes. Minutes is a unit of measurement, and we see that we're measuring the document in pages. That's another unit of measurement. Okay, and so there's a couple things we can do. What we're going to do is talk about what is the rate that the printer is printing, and then I want us to answer the question, how long would it take to print a 200-page document? So it takes 3 minutes to print a 120-page document. And so the first thing I want to do is we're going to actually practice drawing something called an arrow diagram. And here's what it is. We're going to actually compare the two different units. And so what I see about my printer is that, and you can go ahead and write this on your own too, it takes 3 minutes to print 120 pages. Okay. And what I want to do when I want to work with this, it's easy as I can find what's called the unit rate. That word unit rate we're going to use a lot. A unit rate is a rate where we make one of the quantities 1. In other words, we would want to know how many pages does this printer print in 1 minute. Okay, a lot of times rates have time, and we tend to make time the unit or the one part of the unit rate. So the question is, if it takes 3 minutes to print 120 pages, then what does it print every minute? And at that point, of course, we recognize that 3 divided by 3 is 1, or we could say that 1 times 3 is 3. And now I want to know what number times 3 gives me 120. Rates often have division, and in this case we recognize that if we do 120 divided by 3, that we would actually print 40 pages in 1 minute. And in fact, the unit rate here would be 40 pages per minute. When you see a unit like that, like pages per minute, you see that word per, P-E-R, it a lot of times lets you know you have a unit rate, and it means 40. It means the same thing as 40 pages every 1 minute. And so we don't usually say the 1 minute when we talk about a unit rate. Now, we're going to use that to find out if it does 40 pages in 1 minute. My question is, what if I wanted to know how long it takes to do 200 pages? And that would have been hard to go from 120 pages to 200 pages, but once we've got down to the unit rate, it's pretty easy. We want to find out how long it's going to take to do 200 pages. Okay, and there's a couple things we could do. We could make what's called a rate table, and we could actually say that 1 minute is 40 pages, which means that 2 minutes is 80, and we could keep going. And if we did that, we would eventually get there. Now, some of you have probably already recognized how many times we're going to do that. We're actually going to say that 40 times 5 is 200. And if it takes 40 times 5 to get to 200, it's 40 every minute. So we would do 1 times 5, and we recognize that it would take 5 minutes to print 200 pages. And that's how we use a unit rate to solve a problem. Now that we've done that, let me give you one to try on your own, and then we'll check it together. Okay, so here's the one I want you to try. It's actually got two parts. In a factory, a machine caps 70 bottles in 1 minute. That is a unit rate. It caps 70 bottles per minute, we would say. At this rate, how many bottles can it cap in 5 minutes? And then how many bottles can it cap in 1 hour? Why don't you pause the video, see if you can answer both of those questions, and then you can check and see if our answers are the same. Okay, I'm hoping you've taken some time to do this. If I were going to draw this on an arrow diagram, I might say that in 1 minute, the machine caps 70 bottles. And I want to know about 5 minutes. Well, I know this. If every minute it's 70 bottles, 1 times 5 is 5. And so I would just do 70 times 5. And I know that in 5 minutes, it can cap 350 bottles. Okay. Now, the next part actually says, what about in an hour? Well, we recognize this is in minutes and the question's in hours. I think most of you probably realize the easiest thing to do here is actually to just change your hours to 60 minutes. And if in 1 minute it does 70 bottles, 1 times 60 is an hour. And so we would do 70 times 60, which is 4,200 bottles. And that is the answer to B. And I hope that's what you got.